thank you for joining us this evening. Kind of an unplanned show. I'm not looking to go super, super long tonight, but I'll probably go about a half hour once I get this lighting right. I don't like how I have this set up here. So I am. I put it in the Telegram group. Well, that's where I put it. Oh, okay, well that's fine. All right, so I was gonna say, welcome to the show. Welcome to Pineland, and I want to thank everyone, especially the people who've been getting the new book, "Surviving the Fall of America." Maybe I'll do a whole show on that one, so you can kind of get a preview. Well, that's fine. No, this is the preview thing. I always put it in there so when people watch the video after the fact, the people who listen to the video every time know all these things. But if someone hasn't heard it before, it makes sense to do. Dane is here with me, as you can hear by the interjections. So everyone say hi to Dane. No, that's fine. And good evening to everyone who's here. I see you guys just coming in here. That's good. Let's see. The Venmo CVC PRV PO Box 343 Eagle Lake, Maine 04739. And you know all the usual things. Don't send me crypto. It's going down too fast. That door is closed. Good to see you, George. Good to see you, Patrick. So I came on tonight because there's a situation that, or there's actually two situations I deem sufficiently urgent to warrant a, let's call it an alert broadcast, whatever. We'll do the one short, one quick. For people who are invested into crypto, apparently with the what's it called? What's that coin called? Terra coin, I guess that's what it's called. One of the stable coins falling. And there's been a lot of questions from the SEC about the way stable coins operate, where they claim they have a one-to-one amount, but they kind of have it in shady holdings, and we don't know if they actually have the liquidity. A lot of people thought the central banks were sorry about the interruption. The thing paused, but I'm back. By the way, if I can't get back in within about 30 seconds, usually, unless I'm obviously done, look for a new stream. YouTube does this to me. I can't tell you why. I don't know why. Good to see you, Lone Wolf. Glad you're here, and hello to everyone. Like you. Yeah. I don't like you. Yeah, no. I'm a wanted man. What? How many systems is 12 systems? 12 systems. You'll be dead. Yeah, I know, it's true. Okay, so we were talking about crypto, and I was saying the problem with that, and there's a problem with Coinbase. There was an article, and I posted in the community group. By the way, check out the community group. We have interesting things in there that never come up in the algorithm that are too, well, I mean, just check them out. They're good. There's an article on Forbes talking about Coinbase being in trouble, and ultimately, if you read between the lines just a little bit, what it's saying is they're worried about not hitting profit shares and margins, but what they're really worried about is a liquidity crisis. The crypto market, like a lot of speculative markets, is built upon the idea of people going up. But with everyone taking their money out, and knowing how much assets they have or don't have in different sort of ways, how they're modeled, if they can't reach payroll, if they go out, and I don't know the terms of service, but I know that this is a problem with exchanges. You don't have a guaranteed access to your money. It might be something where you have to have litigation, or you'll get something out of it. So I would say if you can withdraw, if you're on any exchanges, and most people who are hardened crypto investors don't, but a lot of the exchanges, and I know specifically Coinbase had examples where you could do staking on their site, where you would get a rate of return, get like basically like a savings account, and there's no FDIC to save you. Not that it would anyway, but in any case, if you're in those crypto markets, I would stress strongly getting out of them. I don't know where the floor is on crypto on this, and I don't know if there is a floor, but I would say this: until you start seeing it really make a run up, you have to assume it's going to continue to fall. And that was the first thing, but that wasn't the real point of the show. That's just me giving you a friendly what's up. We got to talk about the diesel thing. So I was watching a show. There's a guy, his name's Luis Santiago. He does like certain knowledge things. He does it from a Christian perspective, but he did a really good in-depth show talking about the diesel crisis. And he's not the only one. You can find it out here. And I can tell you, I am literally at the end of where the Northeast supply chain would actually come out to, okay? Literally, the last stations before you come into Canada are the ones I often get gas at. And diesel here is jumped up to about $6.30 a gallon. Now, just to give you an example, if you're looking at this a month ago, it was under $5. And the problem is that from what we are reading, and there's other stuff about this, you all know that Europe is running out of fuel because they are not able to get the fuel from Russia. What some of you may or may not know, their crisis with the diesel is sufficiently problematic that the American government is basically, by force majeure, redirecting the diesel that's in the United States to go to Europe instead on the East Coast. So, good to see you, Crumb. So, what we are beginning to see is artificial. The war in Ukraine is and our $40 billion bipartisan commitment, while people can't even afford food, is leading to a point now where we are going to see gas shortages up and down the entire East Coast. It's thought that the Northeast will have a bigger problem than the Southeast in this. There should be, and those shortages may also lead to the usage of other fuels, which in turn will cause electric. Now, I want to talk in a little more detail because I'm more concerned with getting into what you're going to experience in tonight's broadcast than I am in trying to get into the political ramifications of the latest catastrophe from the Biden administration. So here's what we're going to see happen because of that. A portion of the trucking industry, I think at this point it's probably about 10 to 20% of the trucking industry, consists of independent operators. And independent operators will be seeing the cost of jobs get to a point where either they're going to have to get much higher to cover things, and if they're long haul operators, go cross country, and they can see that the diesel price, let's say in Texas, is $4, and in New England is, let's say, it rises to $7, which looks like it's going to happen, and worse. What they're going to figure out very quickly is at 10 miles a gallon, literally the cost of a job doing it out east may be 30, 40, 50% higher depending on cargo, all the different calculations. And so the independent operators are not going to come out east. So there's going to be supply shock going across the country, and Lord knows our government doesn't know how to think about logistics to the point of helping this. Otherwise, they would do something to dampen the prices, or at least, well, if our government knew how to do anything, we wouldn't have this channel. Okay, so what we end up seeing, what we end up seeing is we will see people not come up here, and the people who do come up here are going to have to pay a much higher price. And while it will be a lagging indicator, what you would expect is if you operate on regular fuel, the cost of the higher diesel trucks, the less diesel trucks being available, or the fewer diesel trucks being available, and the greater cost of transporting gas means that cost will be recouped at the pump as well. So if you are living in northern New England and your gas rate is, I think up here, depending on where you live, it's basically hovering probably between 350 and 450, maybe higher in certain areas due to government taxation. I wouldn't be surprised to see gas within the next month jump to over $5 a pump at that, and I'm expecting diesel to go to at least 8. In the Northeast. And apparently the Southeast is going to have that problem somewhat as well. It's thought that the problems will be lesser, though, somewhat because of the closeness to the refining in Texas. So this is something you need to be very aware of, because what it's going to mean is that everyone, to get the truckers, because there's going to be fewer of them when they don't have company people or devoted fleets, they're going to have to pay a lot more. And if they're not locally sourced, you're going to see goods from out of a region become very expensive. And, and the West has their own issues. Shanghai's port problems. I mean, things not coming in there, and the inability to keep the global supply chain moving, especially now that you guys may not have seen this, but in the State Department's latest thing, they took out their recognition that Taiwan is part of China. They said we're still adhering to the one China policy, but they took that out, and the Chinese are incredibly sensitive to that, and the usual global pissing contest continues, where everyone is being starved out of resources. So why did I come on here tonight? What I want to implore you to do is, if you have things that require access to fuel, that you stock up whatever stocks you can, even though the price sucks now. And I know it does suck. It's going to suck a hell of a lot more in about the end of this month. It may take a little longer than that, but I don't think it'll take that much longer. Lord knows gas stations are never slow about raising their rates. And if you're someone who's in a career or job, or your commute requires this, whatever you can do to mitigate those expenses. But what I'm saying is, with trucks, I mean, a lot of these big trucks, over hilly roads, or if they're going, they might only get 10, 15 miles to the gallon on a diesel tank. And, we've seen these videos. You can go all around, here on YouTube, but more on TikTok, about how literally they're running up against their limits of $1,000. And the reality is, I don't know how many businesses are going to be willing to pay the differential. Those who don't won't get supply, and I think some businesses, thinking this is a temporary interruption, may choose to run a little thin with their supplies in exchange to avoid this. Sorry about that. I wish I had my water here. Um, yeah, I do, and I can't move very easy, unfortunately. I mean, I guess I could just drink from the jug. Give me 1 second. Hmm? Well, if you could, you know what? It's okay. I can't wait that long. I don't like to do it that way, but I was choking a little bit. All right, I apologize for that. Lord knows it's ugly watching me do anything that involves consumption. But um, okay, back to the point I was trying to make. So that was the big thing I really wanted to warn you guys about tonight. I'm just watching it, and I worked in logistics for 2 years. I worked in logistics actually at a defense contractor, and for 2 years I worked as a courier. So I know both the on the ground side and I know about truck freight management, all that sort of stuff. It's going to be a big problem, and the fact that this is so hyper political makes it trickier too. I wonder if the truckers will say, because a lot of truckers, I will say, especially the independent guys, and if they're in this region, if the cost is too high and the resources allow, they may choose just to stay home, not to incur the wear and tear and sort of problems that are involved with it. So we'll have to be really aware of it. But I would expect that what this means is when you see food prices next month, I would anticipate seeing probably a 10% across the board thing of things that are available. And I suspect you're going to have problems where certain things are not available with luxury items that people want outgoing at a significant premium. Because what will happen is just things will not be able to get into region. And that ongoing supply crisis, I mean, what's happening in the broader sense is the global supply chain is irrevocably broken, right? And because of that, we're seeing the adjustment, which is actually, if it was managed differently, it would have been a healthy process to decouple supply chains that shouldn't have been connected to one another anyway. Unfortunately, and if I thought we were doing it in the vision of renationalization or coherent blocks, I might have a more uh, positive opinion. But considering that the people who are doing this are your sort of Green New Deal crazy technocrat outlets who are basically creating artificial scarcity so that they make things so miserable that we could have absolute power over the government because most people can't survive otherwise. I'm a little bit more cynical about what their intentions are. Nonetheless, the reality is, if you are not prepared, these are going to be problems. I would urge people as well, if your food situation is not where you want it to be, to get the things you want now, to be ready for that. And one of the things that they're telegraphing pretty hard is that because of various measures that come from this, they're talking in Europe about having brownouts, about having, rolling electricity limitations. I mean, I was reading about the water conservation police in California. It made me think of that Super Bowl back when they had a clean police video that everyone thought was funny, went viral. But in California, that's a reality now. And of course, why do they want you on electric cars? Is it the environment? Well, the coal powered plant and the lithium batteries suggest otherwise. It's love the idea that they can shut off your go anywhere. Just say, hey, you can't again. That was always the problem with crypto. And further beyond that, if you really think about it, the other thing is they was it by 2026 they're having it so every car has to have an automatic shutout system. And they say we need a shutout system so drunk drivers can't go anywhere. Or like in Europe, they're saying we need to be able to look at every chat you have so no chat can be. Like the European elites are really worried about child abuse. You want me to believe that? I mean, let's get honest about it. What are they looking for? New recruits? I mean, to be honest, the logic of it is baffling if you understand the actions of the people involved and how dark and sinister it is.
That weird story that we listened to today.
Which one? The one about International? The airport one or no?
No. Well, that one is creepy. Oh God. Feed.
All right. Well, you go find that. In the meantime, I'm going to talk about problems we're going to deal with day to day. So, what I would expect to see is a lot of construction, a lot of businesses that are in on a big construction site. You've got multiple trucks coming to you, and you have a budget that's there. Like a lot of construction contracts, and I have some relatives in this business. They used to be 90 days, guaranteed pay of a certain amount. Now companies are having to set things on 30-day bases because they don't know what the added cost is going to be. And this started because of the problems with lumber getting really expensive when COVID was going on. But it's kept forward, and fuel will be much more volatile with respect to that. Now, of course, Putin shut off the gas supplies. No, well, we shut off the gas supplies by getting into this thing. And it's fine. They want a world war. They're going to get it. They want to have, this thing expand. And they really haven't left Russia an off-ramp. So we're going to see, and whether that manifests as an economic thing or a hot conflict, I do know that Finland will be trying to join NATO later this week. Apparently, I think Sweden NATO at the same time. Britain has offered a formal security guarantee to both of them while they're in the process of this, and they're moving their heavy-duty Challenger tanks into Poland. The rumor that's been going around is that Poland, Lithuania, and the Baltic states are forming a peacekeeper expeditionary force that's expected to go into Western Ukraine in late May to stabilize the situation, which, to translate to English, is to either set a tripwire because they want to have a larger conflict, or if Russia succeeds, to have NATO secure those Western provinces from Lviv over so that they can have that in probably, they could have a rump state, but more likely they'll just annex them into Poland. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. Interestingly, I read an article today as well talking about Switzerland, that they're making a much bigger investment into their military and to have interoperability with NATO because they were thinking that this was going to be a problem that they were going to be dealing with. Am I having a problem? Let me check if I can help that. Maybe I have. I'm scared to touch this, so it might mess with it. I'm okay. All right, so I want to make sure. All right, maybe it's you, George. Apparently, if other people are having problems, my wife would tell me if we were, 'cause she's watching on her phone. We would, yeah. We actually monitor that. So, of course, you know what? We don't know what YouTube's doing in Europe. It might be they're making this. I'm sorry if that is in fact the case. Danger of doing a live stream. The good thing is that you have the ability. Oh, you had it too? Well, okay. I don't know. Hopefully, what I will say is if there's you need to go back and check, this will upload, and it usually uploads in HD, so you can just go back. If you have any questions you want to throw up, this is not probably going to be one of my super long shows because Lord knows you guys got enough verbal diarrhea from me this morning. But if there are questions, things that people want to bring up, one of the things I read was that NATO and Japan are working much more closely, developing those links much further. That's something to watch. Israel's also having their government fall, apparently. So we might see Netanyahu come back. Bennett seems to be in real trouble over there. Yeah, I know you did, but I did a lot of research on it. So it is political. But what happened is,
everyday, like a normal thing there.
well, here it is. Here's what happened. Here's the background in it. It's not. Here's what happened. Here's Naftali Bennett's kind of like the left center guy compared to Netanyahu, who's like the ultimate neocon, right? And so, in order to get to power, they made an alliance where they let the Arab Party in. I think there's like 6 people in the Arab Party because there are Arabs who live in Israel who were there from back when or whatever. And the problem was there have been a number of attacks of Palestinian militants against Israel. Israel would call them terrorists, Palestine would call them freedom fighters, whatever. Palestinians are fighting Israelis. So what that does is it makes that left-wing alliance kind of have a hard time holding together because on the one hand, Naftali Bennett said he'd be tough on crime, which the Israelis says, but the Arabs don't see it as, so they're going to probably not support that government, they've held from going after these people. Bennett, who has some of his supporters who are more like your, how would you put it? This is a terrible comparison, but like the old blue dog Democrats, not in the economic sense, but in the terrorism sense, are defecting to Likud, which is the party that you would see Netanyahu have. So what Netanyahu's trying to do is manage a coalition, and coalition governments are such a mess. Manage a coalition to take over by promising certain state ministry seats to members of the Knesset, that's their parliament, and at the same time, you're seeing that the position that Bennett is taking is actually supposedly more popular with the Israeli people, and he wants to have a snap election. So I don't pretend to know the ins and outs of that process enough to know how it's going to work, but the bottom line is the Israeli government is likely to fall, and it will either have to have a snap election, which will have that up for 30 days, or we'll have Netanyahu come back, and we'll see how that plays. Huh? Because that happens a lot over there. I mean, parliamentary systems have these weird things happen, but Dana had asked about it, and I looked into it, and it is a real thing. I mean, the push back and forth between them and Iran, and supposedly Mohammed bin Salman's becoming closer to coming in power because the old man was sick over there, the old king, what's his name? It's not Faisal, that was the old one. Anyway, so there's a problem there. Also, Sri Lanka is in the middle of revolts, and that country seems to be falling apart completely, and the foreign aid people don't want to help because the Chinese don't want to help because they owe a lot of money to the Americans, and the Americans don't want the Chinese getting involved, and they just it's a mess. And India, by the way, has been having crazy problems. I've been reading they've had temperatures up to 140 degrees there. It's kind of like that scene in 2012. Yeah, I'm not even kidding. That's in Fahrenheit. For the people who live in the rest of the world, look up whatever it is. I hate Celsius. I mean, I kind of know it was like 40, something like that. I don't know, maybe higher than that, 50,
Yeah, that's
somewhere up there. I mean, I know the conversion. What is it? 5 9 minus 32, and anyway, no, that's fine. Yeah, no, you're fine. This is an open chat. Everyone can chat it. So that is an ongoing problem. What else is going on?
Is it really hot down south too?
Yeah, it is. It is, and the drought conditions continue out west. That's I was thinking about this the other day. California could just put desalinization plants if they wanted to make this work. They do. Germany could just have nuclear plants. You have to at some point conclude these people do not want things to work. You wouldn't, and that's not what they want. So, from a pragmatic perspective, we have idiots running the show. In light of all of these things, I would say that we are going to see a number of economic indicators go to crap. I know that I think it's either today or tomorrow. I didn't look that the inflation numbers are expected to come in, and remember, those don't even include key stores like food and energy. I suspect that will be traumatizing for the markets as we go into yet another day in the red. I suspect one of the things I've seen a lot of stories about lately is the number of people who live in the West who are getting foreign citizenship to leave these countries, and they're buying citizenship to get out of the way. When you start seeing rats scurrying the ship, and they're about the size of Splinter, you know that the foot is on the march. So you got to be ready for those sort of things. I mean, and the thing is, they make these messes. They run away and they hide around behind their automated things. Like I was watching something. The Russians apparently in their tanks have automated drones, and the Chinese have these super drones. They've been using to herd people into places. It's really frightening to see where the technocratic algorithm is going to lead. And this idea that we have freedom in any sort of sense. I mean, the reality is, with economic chaos, we would lose the ability to exercise that in a lot of ways. And government may have programs, but they're also going to have a lot of rules for compliance. So, whatever you can do to increase your self sufficiency for the days ahead, I highly recommend it. And you should be anticipating in your planning that energy is going to be a difficulty. So, if you can reduce or put your resources together in a way where you don't have to go out as much, I think that would be really helpful for
That's
you.
what I saw today.
What did you see today?
I saw an article today that said, make peace with your parents and then turn into fertilizer.
Well, I mean, it's that, once upon a time, people used poop for not just fertilizer, they used to build bricks, they used it for all sorts of things. So, considering what we eat, if you eat at McDonald's, I wouldn't use that, for anything. I mean, but then again, who knows? Maybe it would work really good. I mean, it's kind of disgusting to think about, but they say Big Macs last a really long time without, like, decaying, which makes you wonder what they're really made of. But I don't want to think about that too deeply, right? Let's see. I'll bail and catch this when it's wrapped. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry we're having a hard time. But thank you for stopping in, George. Good to see you. All right. So those were the things I wanted to cover tonight. I don't need to go all night. Certainly, I'm tired having done so. I will say one thing. Check over in the community page. I took a picture today. The sunset tonight was absolutely beautiful up here in Pineland, up here in northern Maine. Just the pinks and the chartreuse and all the sort of.
Chartreuse is yellow.
Oh, yeah, it did have a little bit of yellow at the top. It had like a yellowy kind, or yeah, there's a little bit of yellow left because the sun was still just not below the horizon, and you had like the pinky and purpley a little higher up. It was nice. It was really pretty. So I put a picture up there so you can take a look for
I
yourself.
saw it. It's pretty.
Yeah, it was, and you had the little peepers chirping, little crickets in the
Oh, I
background.
love the peepers.
So that was really nice. So
Peepers
we
are the
enjoyed
best.
that. And you know what? When things get crazy, if the world becomes too much, don't be afraid to take a break, sit down, walk away from it. Take a moment in contemplation, enjoy nature, the gifts the Lord's given us, and if you want to go a step further than that, a moment in prayer for repose. I think that's absolutely a wonderful and beautiful thing. Give me 1 second here. Just need a drink of water. 1 second. Mm. I actually made for dinner a doctored up Indian food recipe. I bought the tikka masala sauce, but I added all the component pieces, so it was almost like home style, like a chunky thing. I put some crushed tomato in it. I put some fresh onion. I put what else goes in that? I put some chickpea and potato to add, a little something to go with it. A little bit of cream. And it was really tasty, and I really enjoyed it. But Lord knows, eating Indian food is a little dangerous for mild acid reflux. So we all have to deal with things. Hence why sitting in this position, because I'm kind of in a weird position. Because I had to leave the phone charged. We had a power outage today up in the Northland. I don't know what it was about, but certainly caused a little bit of a problem here, and the whole day was a little. I had an odd flow to it. Not that it was a bad day; it was a good day, but just things I was dealing with. But anyway, so like you want to hear about my acid reflux, but when the phone keeps slipping, and the reason why is I'm having to take care of that. In fact, I'm going to go take some Tums when I finish this up. Just as a reminder, in coverage. Look for prices to get higher, and it will affect people. If you don't live on the north or on the east coast, it will eventually affect you too, because if we keep escalating the war in Ukraine, okay, if we keep providing more resources to them, eventually Russia's going to do more too. So this scarcity is, they're trying to hide inflation behind war, just like they tried to use or they did use World War II to end the Great Depression, because things were already, the myth that's told is that the New Deal saved America. It really wasn't. It was the war that really, the command economy that came forward with that. And eventually they may try to do that, but I think before that's done, they'll try to get rid of the debt problem by getting rid of a lot of people indirectly and blaming it on each other, like the government's always doing. It makes you wonder who's behind it all. But no matter what you believe about the levels of conspiracy, if you're a Christian, you can see the pull strings on people with their own vices and virtues, thinking they're greater than they should be. So something to always keep an eye on. I'll keep you informed if I see other things happening that bear warning. For the moment, just to give you a military on the ground update, one of the things that has been happening, there was a report of several people died in Belgorod. Ukraine is now taking active shots into Russia, which is a little different. We're seeing this with greater frequency, and we're seeing it with weapons that are coming out of NATO that are being given to them. So how Russia's going to respond to that's an open question. How much Putin has control over there is also an open question. There's some hardliners who want to go a lot further, a lot faster. And if things go too badly for the Russians, the West may celebrate prematurely and find themselves dealing with, crazy Colonel Yuri coming out of the bat, hidden. I mean, same thing happened with Stalin. He was a secretary once, and before he was a tyrant. I guess he was a tyrant as a secretary. I can imagine him doing, take out the paperclip. Okay, he probably didn't do that, but who knows? All right, so that is something you should keep an eye on. And besides that, what else am I hearing about? Um, I don't want to get into medical now. We'll skip over that. You have anything, Derp, you want to put in there? Anything you have your eyes on? More of the Dana report. By the way, thank you to you guys who are enjoying the chicken videos. I appreciate that.
What
Um,
about the Chinese super
I
dress?
mentioned that already. Yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah, I did. I covered briefly. I mean, I'm gonna go deep into it. So I guess people know what's going on. That's good. Just want to say thank you for everyone who's supporting the program, everyone who's been getting the books, supporting us through the Venmo, CVC, PRV, and your messages. New Albion at protonmail.com, PO Box 343, Eagle Lake, Maine 04739, as well as your prayers. And honestly, even if you got nothing to say but hi, that's still good. I mean, I appreciate my community. I'm very grateful that I have a smart, intelligent community. Even when I disagree with you on things, I usually find that you make a good argument for your case.
We will always
And
say
it,
hello.
yeah, we will always say hello. It's just we're like cool, like all the Mensa kids. I mean, not really, but I mean, it does help if you can follow the narrative. And look, it's hard. We don't know where this is all going to lead, but what we are going to have to focus on, I think, in the days ahead, is trying to stay maybe a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ahead of the news cycle. So if you need to do emergency preparedness, to look at that. What I will say is one other thing to keep an eye on is sectarian violence. I was reading 3 more churches in Texas were vandalized, saying that they put on their pro-choice is pro-life, which is, I don't even know how you rationalize that logic. But it'll be interesting to see if the FBI sits on its hands under the Biden administration, which is exactly what I'm predicting, because it's sort of like the sort of the glow meme over there on 4chan, that we are being poked and poked and poked and prodded, and yet no one is doing anything. Although there was a victory today of sorts, although I think it was sort of political cover. The Senate was trying to pass a law to make abortions legal nationwide. It was defeated 51-49 with every Republican, or I guess I think yeah, the Republicans all voted against it, and the deciding vote that made sure it lost was Joe Manchin, Democrat senator, West Virginia. I mean, that guy's going to have to flip parties soon, otherwise they're going to send someone from Maryland to take the dude out. So we'll see how that happens, but he has to do that. I mean, West Virginia is not a state that looks kindly upon that. They really don't, and I don't know. Credit to him for standing up for that. I mean, even though it's political opportunism, but it does seem. And I honestly, to be honest with you, the Democrats are happy that it didn't pass because they want that mobilizes the rest of their business election. They need to get out progressive voters because they can't run the economy. I mean, it's just have to run on social issues if we have an election, and if it's just theatrics, which is what I kind of believe, they're still going to go through the motions. So something to watch going forward, and to see if the Supreme Court starts putting out its decision. The intimidation that was being committed by activists and the White House soft position on it is really sitting badly with vote. I read a poll today. It said 88% of Republicans, 71% of independents, and 67% of Democrats disagree with doxing the court. I mean, and you know what? At some point, there is going to be a cultural pushback. You see how it's been pushing into education. What's that? What it means is that they were publishing the addresses where the Supreme Court justices lived, so that the activists could go.
But what was the thing about it?
Well, doxing just means when you post someone's information.
I know that, but
Oh, what are they saying? Well, they're saying the activist or the court. The court's asking the FBI to get involved, which once again, I mean, the problem is you keep going to the FBI when the FBI is the problem. It's like asking the judge to find himself guilty. It just doesn't happen.
I've only seen bits and pieces, and I'm just really tired.
That's fine. The short version of it is that the threat and intimidation culture is coming back for another summer of violence, and this administration wants it. They love it. I mean, realistically, because the Bolsheviks always purged the Mensheviks, and I'll give Joe Biden credit for one thing. If he was being put in there to destroy America, if that was his goal for the, he's done a hell of a job. It's amazing how much was taken out and how little resistance there was. It's amazing that, it's just one of those things, and I'll just say it because someone has to say it, that people always say, why do you assume malfeasance when incompetence is a better answer? But if I was really someone who was trying to do something that was heinous, I would probably feign incompetence because who gets mad? Like, oh, they didn't mean it. They didn't mean it. They didn't know. They know. They know. And we know. And they know that we know, which is why we get shadow banned.
They know that we know.
Yeah. They killed Walter. If you've ever seen the movie The Burbs, you can appreciate that. If not, it will make absolutely no sense to you. And if you haven't seen it, it's a great sort of campy '80s comedy. That's that. I mean, I know everyone's bad. I know Tom Hanks is a piece of crap. I know all these things. It's just how much of your own past can you destroy? I mean, I guess you have to destroy it all. Maybe that's the thing. So anyway, I covered what I wanted to cover. Let's call it a night. Put a quick prayer on. Heavenly Father, I just pray for the safety, well-being of everyone who is a friend of this channel, and for those who aren't friends to become friends and to find their way to you, Lord, either way. So your kingdom come, that's what we are seeking, and your will be done. In Jesus' mighty name, just ask for your protection. And amen. Thank you guys for spending a little time with me this evening. I am Tom Kaczynski, Pinelander out.